So among others, among a lot of other reasons, these are a few.
Okay, to talk about the social aspect, and of course you did mention that most of the time when the girl is married, most often usually the girl is withdrawn from school. Yeah. And of course that means that's the end to the child's education. Exactly. And in the future also affects the family, because that child probably will not have proper education and certainly maybe wouldn't have a very good job, and that also continues to mean that family probably will continue to live in that poverty, because that's the reason why sometimes parents give out their child to marry early.
Exactly. In fact, according to a survey conducted by the Ford Foundation, which the survey, of course, includes the Gambia, it was realized that most of the, like you said, most of the these children, who got married at this age, usually before the third or fourth year of the marriage would divorce. And it has that also has its consequences, because most of the time, they end up taking care of themselves. They end up taking care of the child, one or two child that they have in that marriage, and as such, they have to find means of survival. We've seen most of them ending up in being commercial sex workers, and they also become liability in society, because at the end of the day, somebody has to be there to provide for their basic needs in the community. And the trend continues. If they have children, in that setup, the tendency of that child, following the trend of the life that the mother, already started is high. So they become liability to their family. They become a liability to the society and whoever is close to them. And like you rightly said, yes, that becomes, most of the time, it becomes the end of their educational career. So it has a lot of consequences socially, like I said. And the most disheartening aspect of it is that this child may not realize her fullest potential. It also results to low self-esteem. Wherever this child is, he or she is with. She looks low upon herself. She could not interact. She would not be able to interact with her colleagues. Would not be able to know what she can do and what she can't really do.
Okay, all right, thank you. To Mr. Drum again, the issue of the social aspect. We know we have our laws, probably not very clear in terms of the marriage, because of the different type of laws that we have. Different type of law system that we have. But looking at the social aspect, how can we ask people in the communities, parents and others, be convinced that early marriage is certainly not the best for the child?
Thank you, Bakari. I just want to just say some few words before I come to your statement. I think we are talking about child marriage or early marriage, not because we think marriage itself is bad. I think it's great to be in such a union. What we are talking about is the effect of marriage on a child, if a child is in such a union. So I think that's important. We know that often issue of child marriage is packaged, has a social necessity package. It's packaged in that way. It's a social necessity. Yeah. It's a cultural necessity. And some other people will go to the extent of seeing it as a religious necessity. I think there are values in all this argument. We also understand that sometimes parents want to give away their daughters to marriage because they want to prevent or avert unwanted sexual advances towards the child. They want to protect the chastity and honor of the child and of the family. I think great points. But I think when we look at those reasons for child marriage, probably they have outlived their usefulness. Maybe they are no longer relevant. Maybe they are no longer necessary as valid arguments for child marriage. So I think, as Lamin has mentioned, if we look at the effects of child marriage, the adverse effects that this marriage has on a child, then we would probably come to the conclusion that it has defeated its very purpose, which is to prevent unwanted sexual advances or protect the chastity or honor of the child or of the family. And so for me, both the social, the health, the educational effects of early marriage ought to be understood and taken seriously. As Lamin has, I was just reading a research which said that girls under 15 years are 5 times more likely to die as a result of in labor than those who are 20 years and above. So if you have a child who is married, 15 years and under, has the likelihood of that person dying in childbirth is 5 times higher than the person who is 20 years, because the body is not fully mature. So maternal mortality or morbidity is higher among that category. And as Lamin has said, this person doesn't have, because marriage is also about power and power relation. So if you have a child of 14 years, 15 years in a marriage, he cannot negotiate for safer sex, cannot negotiate with the husband. So if you have a playboy husband, a Romeo, you are at greater risk of HIV/AIDS because you can't negotiate. You can't say no. You can't ask this person to protect himself and consequently protect you. And it's also about the schooling. So we see the rights of a child being violated, the best interest of the child not taking into consideration, the right to health, right to education, participation, because often this person doesn't participate in the decision that leads to the marriage. And they are also very vulnerable to domestic violence. Well, imagine you have a 15-year-old child married, in a marriage, taking care of a 40-year-old man. You cannot even take care of yourself, much more your children. So they are also at the higher risk of domestic violence by the husband and by the in-laws. And if we even look at our setting, we see that quite a lot of those people under the age of 18 years who are in marriage certainly are always at the wrath and are always victimized by their in-laws or by their husbands. Because aman tabiro fangono, aman kurono, ate bungo de dano la moye. Because amano, ala nawe tabiro kala tabiro fangote. Maybe Kobe Tambila Lekano Tambi, you become a victim of domestic violence. And so because the person is not in school, he has lost her chance, as Lamin has said. Whatever aspiration this person has is lost. And often because you don't have that education, you probably would not be able to have any meaningful job, no livelihood skill. And because they don't have a livelihood skill, they would be in poverty. And because the person has not been in school, has not completed school, it's very likely that he or she wouldn't put much premium on the importance of education and education of her children or her child. So the poverty in the family becomes cyclical or generational. So mother poor, father poor, children wouldn't go to school, so they become poor. So I think that's important. If we look at the law, of course we know about, I think it's section 28 of the Constitution of the Gambia, which is on marriage, that clearly says that marriage shall be between people who are of full capacity and consent. Okay? And we know also that if ordinarily somebody has sex or sexual abuse a child, the law would take its course. But we know that in the instance of marriage, especially in the Children's Act, it's subject to the personal law. The personal law of me as a Muslim governs issues of marriage, inheritance, and divorce. So marriage actually falls under that category. So we have one law that protects all children, especially those who are not married. But that particular law is not protecting children very much, because the marriage as a Muslim falls under the personal law. And it's very common. If you marry in the Gambia, in quite a lot of societies, and you are just 16, you lose the protection that is given to children, because everybody then considers you as an adult. So, and by age you are still a child, but social definition, you are an adult. So you basically lose that very protection that children, a child in your category who is outside of school, who is not married, gets. Or we see that you have Article 28 of the, I think Section 28, I think again, of the Women's Act, that actually